So let's step into the great debate about the Drumlogue and how it sounds. It was released a few months ago, and there's like this divided consensus over like its reputation within the community. In my opinion, I actually think that it's slipped under the radar. It's kind of underrated for what it is, for what it offers. Obviously, this is all about context and context that I'll be providing you in this video. So in terms of sonics, just to reiterate, there are 4 analog voices. So bass drum, snare drum, low tom, and high tom. We're gonna go through these just on their own because they're like a huge character of the instrument, and it's the part of the instrument that you can't really get away from, right? And so if I was to equate these sounds to another unit, they kind of have like an FME digitone, almost like pocket operator sort of quirky sound to them. But of course, they're analog. There's also 6 digital voices where you could upload your own samples if you'd like, so you could go wherever you want there. I guess this section might make you think of a Digitact, and then aesthetically, I find that it looks kind of like a mini analog rhythm, if you will. In terms of sequencer precision, it's stepped up into this new standard workflow of being ultra precise. You could change parameters on a per step basis. And then there's this multi-bracket right here, which we're also going to take a look at. Quite a particular part of the instrument. In particular, the user engine, there's actually already like a stock synth uploaded into here. It's called Nano. But if you'd like to find and upload your own synth engines into the unit, you're actually able to do that, which is pretty cool. So that's another part of the instrument that's kind of endless. And also I've linked to 2 engines in the description of this video if you'd like to take a look at those. And so before getting started with these sounds, if this video sort of pushes you in the direction of purchasing the Drumlogue, make sure to use the affiliate link in the description of this video because it helps me a lot. It helps keep this channel going and it doesn't cost you anything extra. So please do that. And this video is sponsored by DistroKid. They are a music distribution platform that's geared towards independent artists and producers like myself. I've been using them for like 5 years now, and we'll be getting into a few reasons why I think they should be your go-to music distribution platform later in this video. We'll start by selecting an empty bank here. Select. That is empty, great. And we will really quickly just put together a groove with these 4 analog tones. So starting with bass drum, part bass drum, step sequencer, 4 on the floor, let's go. Snare. Low tom. High tom. Maybe a bit of a quicker tempo. Bring this up to maybe like 130-ish. The clever part of these analog sounds is that you're actually able to layer a transient over top of them to sort of change the quality of that sound. I think that the toms already sound good as is. Let's take a look at the snare drum and see what we could do with that. So snappy type. You guys know I like the lo-fi. So I do admit that this snare drum does sound pretty thin just naturally. I think a way around that is to mix your bass drum a little bit lower in the mix, right? So the snare drum will just stand out a little bit more. But still, it does sound thin. We're gonna be looking at ways of working, sort of massaging our way through that. Before doing that though, let's take a look at the bass drum transient. Box is a little bit cooler, I find. Let's go with that. Quirky. Now that you've heard these analog tones, let me give you my take on them. These aren't like banging analog drums. Personally, as I mentioned, I find that they definitely can sound a little bit thin. Like this kick isn't gonna be bursting through your speaker, same with the snare. Personally, where I go with the snare, I usually use it for like more complex rhythms and not necessarily on like a 2 and 4 snare drum. It definitely has more of like a layer on top quality. In fact, let's go ahead and do that. I'm gonna change the snare drum step. I'm gonna put it on 2 and 4. So step 5 and 13. Right, so that definitely does sound thin. I'll have these claps on 2 and 4 as well. And I want to change these, so I'm going to go into my user sample bank here. User. We'll find a clap. Right, so now this could serve as more of a layer if I want to add some decay over top of this. So without the snare, with the snare. Right, so it's a subtle thing, it's serving its purpose as a layer. I already have the hats in mind that I want to use. Let's throw some hats over this as well. Cool, we're going to change these hats. Once again, head over to the user bank. We could also maybe add some reverb and delay to these hi-hats. Let's start with delay. Reverb? Just delay for now. And we can maybe even tune them up a little bit. There we go, bring them down by a tone. The way that I usually shape and sculpt the toms is full decay, full tune, full detune. Right, and I'll do the same thing with the high tom. Right, because otherwise these toms they're so short otherwise, so it's nice to have a little bit of like a decay there. So there's no hiding, that is what the analog drums of the Drumlogue sound like, kind of an FME realm sort of thing. They definitely shape a big part of the sound of the Drumlogue, so maybe your decision has already been informed. Before moving on to sampling though, I'm just gonna save this, head over to a different pattern, a different program, select. This is another pattern that I created, and I wanted to show you guys a little jam with the S1 that I have tucked away to the side here, just to give you an idea of what this actually sounds like in context. So I'm using the Roland S1 here, and I actually would have chose the T8, which is a drum machine and 303, instead of the S1, because I just find that it works so well in combination with the Korg Drumlogue. What can I say? I love drum machines. And so the reason why I'm not featuring it in this video is because I just dropped a video on that exact setup over on my Patreon. You're welcome to join, by the way. Here's a link. And now let's talk about sampling with the Drumlogue. First off, uploading samples into the Drumlogue is a process for one reason. So you connect your Drumlogue to your computer via USB, just like many other sampling units. The thing is that you can't just drop samples into the samples folder and just be on your way. You have to actually go in there and manually number each sample, so 001, 002, 003, for them to actually register into the unit. So if you're using like 100 plus samples, which is totally reasonable, you're gonna have to number each one of them. Maybe something that Korg will adjust in a future update, but yeah, it's something that you guys should know. But in any case, once you've got the samples in there, this is where you could enter into new sonic territories within the Drumlogue. So let's say you're looking for something maybe harder hitting or just a different quality kick. Let's go over to kick, get rid of these for now. We're essentially gonna turn this kick into another tom, and SB2 for now is going to be the new kick. So part SB2, gonna go over to my sample library user, and we'll lay down a 4 on the floor here. That is not a kick. Let's find a kick. I think I have some up here. Right, so completely different quality. Okay, now I'm gonna go back to the bass drum, step sequencer, and we're gonna, there we go, so now it's a different. I find that it's still a little bit thin, so I'm gonna increase the drive on that kick. I could even like bit crush it. By the way, if this is a process that you're looking to take, I would suggest putting a little piece of tape here and renaming your drums, your voices, according to the way that you're using them. I'll add another set of hi-hats over top of this with the open hi-hat, once again using a sample. And if we really want to get funky with these hi-hats, ratchet to 3. So a ratchet, this is essentially like a flammy sort of thing that you hear so much in trap music. We're going to try it right here. Oh boy, kind of cool. And speaking of accent, I want even more from that kick. So part kick, sorry, got confused there. SP2 is where my kick is. Same thing, we're on accent. We're gonna bring this up to like 100. There you go. So vibe check with you guys. I wanted to check in and see how you think it sounds so far. Do you like the way it sounds? Let us know in the comment section. It might not be everyone's cup of tea, but again, in the right context, this is actually a very unique, quirky sounding drum machine. In terms of sonic quality, it's kind of its own thing. There's nothing else that's quite like it. And the next thing we're gonna look into is this little bracket here, so the multi bracket. But before getting into that, let's talk about today's sponsor, DistroKid. Here's a few reasons why you should be using DistroKid as opposed to other music distribution platforms, especially if you're an independent artist or producer. Firstly, they're on the cutting edge of social media and new music promotional tools. They're definitely the pioneers in that sense because their platform depends on people like us, independent artists and producers, to use these tools to promote our own music. The amount of stores or streaming platforms that DistroKid distributes to is insane. And they also keep up to date with smaller or up and coming platforms that you might not even know about or have access to. So a perfect example of this is a platform called KKBox, which DistroKid distributes to. You think that Spotify is my biggest streaming earner, but it's actually not. KKBox is, so thank you DistroKid for keeping track of that. DistroKid does not take a cut. They deliver 100% of streaming royalties to you, no extra charge. Independent artists and producers, there is a reason why DistroKid distributes 1/3 of the world's music, which is insane. Okay, back to the video. Multi voices and a setup change. Just to be clear, within this multi bracket, one of these sounds at a time, so you could select between VPM, noise, as well as user. They don't all sound at once. So VPM, not VPN, VPM. You have a little selection here, so default, oct, half, fourth, air, creep, throat, harsh. So these are all monophonic. This next thing I'm gonna go through, the MIDI setup here, is something I couldn't find all the details on the internet. Maybe I just wasn't looking hard enough. But in any case, I'm going to document it here because I had a little bit of a hard time figuring this one out. So to blow this voice up onto your keyboard to play it as a scale, this is what you have to do. Shift, global, gonna head up to sync, settings, and in channel here, I set this to 112, right? So you could change this to either one channel or, several channels. 112 is what I chose. And on the key step, I have chosen channel 11. And so that's what gives me control of this entire keyboard. I want to lay down a bass tone, and personally, one of my favorites was half. There we have a bass line. I could tweak it. To give a quick context to these other presets, I'm going to scroll through them as well while turning on the S1 groove. Let's see what this sounds like. And then there's user, and just like that. This is where you could actually download your own engines into. Right now, the default is just nano, which sounds you know. I've actually linked you to 2 other engines that you're able to download into the unit in the description. Check that out. Effects quality is another important thing to look at, I think. With the delay, there's a surprising amount of parameters to work with. There's also different types of delay. There's a reverb within the delay. I've put a bunch of delay on this clap here. It's also on the hi-hat, so we'll hear it there as well. Let's go back to the delay, and we're just gonna run through all the different types and see how that's gonna affect. Stereo, mono. Ooh, that's better. Stereo BPM. Yeah, tape. I find that tape is the best option. It's like the smoothest option. And then we'll go into the parameters here. Feedback. Currently set to dotted quarters. Right, so that's the highest level that it goes to. Tone, does that change the volume at all? Bit of a darker reverb, so this is essentially like a filter on the reverb. Sorry, on the delay. And then there's reverb with the delay. Very cool. So we'll leave that there. In terms of the reverb, let's see the types that we have here as well. We'll stick to Hall, but there's also Space, Riser, Submarine. Right, so these are a bit more experimental. Time, so I'm going to shorten this time so it's a bit more of like a gated reverb, you know, like an 80s style thing. I'm going to throw a ton of reverb onto here. Let's check it out. Shorter. Okay, so it looks like that's about as short as it gets. Okay, let's try a different type of reverb. I like that better. So what do you guys think if you own a Drumlogue? Hopefully this opened up possibilities as to what it's actually capable of and just digging into making it sound good. There's still so much more to discover with the Drumlogue. They keep dropping updates as well. I just feel like this is a returning topic of discussion, which is why I wanted to cover it in this video. Give the Drumlogue a little bit more love. So hopefully this video served its purpose of pulling you in a certain direction depending on what you're looking for. Thank you so much for being here. Use the affiliate links in the description of this video. It helps me a lot. It doesn't cost you anything extra. You're also welcome to join my Patreon. I recently did like a little review of the Drumlogue with the T8. It's an exclusive video for Patreon members and a bunch of other exclusive content. I drop samples there like every week. Thank you guys so much for being here and hope to see you in the next video.